Hello everyone, welcome to another segment of Accomplished Minds. Camille Alleyne is here. She's publicly known for her work in the advancement of aerospace and space technology. She serves as the Assistant Program Scientist for the International Space Station at NASA Johnson Space Center. She's also the founder and president of the Brightest Star Foundation, a non-profit organization that serves to educate, empower, and inspire young women in the study of math, science, and technology. I am pleased to have Camille Alleyne here on Accomplished Minds. Welcome, Camille.
Thank you, Lorena.
Thank you, too. So, how did you become interested in space?
I remember at the age of, I always tell the story at the age of 6 or 7 years old when I would sit on the trunk of my dad's car every night, just fascinated about space, fascinated about the vastness of space, and just like wondered what was that all about? What was out there, back in that time, which I won't tell you how long ago that was. It was just, we had no concept of what that was, but I just had like a natural curiosity about space, not even knowing that it would my life would take that trajectory. But I was always good in math and science in school, in primary school, in secondary school. Time to decide what I wanted to study in college. I was also very fascinated by airplanes because my family traveled a lot. We would come to the States. We had a lot of family. So we'd travel, and I'd been traveling since I was 5 years old. So I was fascinated by this flying machine. And so when it was time to decide what I wanted, engineering was a natural thing because it involved math and science, which I was really good in. But then there's so many different types of engineering. So it was a challenge narrowing it down. And in Trinidad, being around the oil and gas industry, because my dad worked for Trinidad at the time, petroleum engineering would have been a natural fit, or chemical engineering. But because I was so fascinated by planes, I decided that I wanted to study aeronautical engineering. Once I moved to the States and really had an eye-opener about the U.S. space program. So that's the long and short of it.
So it seems to me that you have a deep passion for space, and your curiosity led you into your career path today.
Exactly. I have a passion for space exploration. To me, it's so much bigger than ourselves. So much grander than anything we can think about or dream about. And that's been fulfilling for me, being involved in this field.
Wow. So Camille, tell us a little about your work at NASA.
So I have spent the last 16 years of my career working for the U.S. government, both at NASA. I spent 10 years at NASA, and I spent 8 years at Department of Defense working on ballistic missiles and rocket engineering. Really, all my career, I've designed aircraft and spacecraft. Now I am in the International Space Station program, and the International Space Station is a science lab in space. It orbits the Earth now. We have a crew of 6 on board the space station, and they stay for 6 months. And the space station is a scientific laboratory that allows us to do microgravity science research and technology development across many, many disciplines. So we use the lab to do research in biology and biotechnology. We use the lab to do research on physical sciences, really understanding fundamentally a lot of the biological, chemical, and physical processes that we take for granted here on Earth. We use the lab to study extensively the human body, because a lot of things happen to the human body when it's taken out of a gravitational environment like our Earth and put into a space environment. We use the lab as a technology test bed to test out new kinds of technologies that will enable us to further explore space as human beings. And then, and one more thing, we use the lab to study the Earth And also, it has a great vantage point of studying space, the vastness of space. And then finally, we use the lab as an education tool to inspire young kids to be excited and engaged in their studies of math and science and technology and engineering. So a lot of students around the world get to design and develop science experiments that fly in the space station. Wow. So that's what my work is about. The office that I'm in is responsible for all the research and all the technology and all the education that's done on the space station. And specifically, my responsibility is I manage across, so it's an international space station. So it took 5 space agencies around the world, the US, Japan, Canada, Russia, and Europe, to build this space station. So I managed all the education projects across the international partnership. And I'm also responsible for communicating, developing strategies to communicate the benefits of the science research that we do on the International Space Station. So it's a big job, but it's amazing and very fulfilling. And I get to use my passion for space and spread the word and talk to just normal people about what we do.
You seem very passionate. And I must ask you, do you fly? Do you know?
I do. I have a pilot's license. I haven't been in the cockpit of a plane for about a few years, but I do have a private pilot's license. So that was one of the major accomplishments in my life.
And have you ever been to space?
I have not been to space. I did apply. I had been an aspiring astronaut. I say had because I'm getting a little older, and I think my passions now, the direction of where I'm taking my life has changed. But back in 2004, I was a finalist for the astronaut selection program, which meant that out of about 4,000 or 5,000 applicants, they selected 100 finalists to invite them to interview for the job of flying in space. And so out of that 100, they selected 12. I was not one of the 12, but I think just getting that far in the process was absolutely amazing, because they only invite you because they know you can do the job of being an astronaut, you know. So it was a major accomplishment for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So as someone from the Caribbean, and making that step to what you are doing is totally admirable. As a woman from the Caribbean, making that step it's fantastic.
Thank you.
How would you suggest young girls and boys from the developing countries begin to think about opportunity and achievement at your level?
Well, it starts in school. Education is the key. And I thank my parents so much, especially my mom, who made it. I'm one of 3 girls. Education was everything for my parents. And so they instilled that in us and a love for learning. And so math and science education at the high school level is critical. Once you have that great foundation, the sky is the limit, right? And so it transitions you into fields, different careers in engineering, different careers in science. And who knows, if you love space and aerospace, it can transition you into that career. But not only aerospace, mechanical, electrical, computer. we hire all facets of engineering. But really it starts with education.
So for the little girl, I'm just saying somewhere in Kenya or even in Trinidad South, but she doesn't know where to start, and her parents probably weren't fortunate like you. How, and she wants to get into that arena, get a chance. What would you tell her to do,
So I would, what I just said, work hard, study hard at what it is that you do and that you love. Right. So if you love math and science, I think the problem we have with females not wanting to go into these fields is because they don't see themselves represented. And in that, they don't believe that they can achieve what it is that they want to pursue. And so I would say believe in yourself and study hard, and it doesn't matter if it's math and science, you can do it, and then going to college is critical. And from there, it's just a matter of finding the opportunities in the different areas of engineering or science, really.
But could the Caribbean ever become a player, much less a leader in the field of science and technology?
Absolutely.
Because I see so many of us only go into the oil and gas, because I have a lot of, we tend to just stay that path, stay on that that road. And, look at you. You went out into something totally different that, that most people don't really travel down that road from the Caribbean.
So it's hard to get into the space industry if you are not in the U.S. and if you're not a U.S. citizen. So it's always a challenge for me when I go back to the Caribbean and I talk about it. But I really believe that we can be leaders in science and technology. And I have been talking about having conversations about the birth of a Caribbean space agency. And a lot of people say, well, there's so many problems. And we hear this all the time, even in the US. There's so many problems on Earth. Why would we even think of building a space agency? But what I say is that it's not about space exploration. I mean, it's a means to an end. It is about the development of your human resource and your human capital to be highly technical, skilled people, to be highly scientific, technological, skilled workforce. And having that workforce could transition into anything. We could be leaders in the green energy movement. We could be leaders in the information technology field. And so, as long as you have a value for science and technology as a nation, I mean, there's no limit to what we can do and what we can pursue. And it leads to economic development. It leads to economic development. So a developing nation could become an emerging market if they valued science and technology.
But I think it goes beyond that. It's like creating and fostering that environment that is attractive to whatever, a startup in medical and technical.
Exactly.
I mean, I need to see if the public sector, the private sector need to get more involved.
Yes.
And probably just open people's minds all to the possibilities.
That is critical. Innovation, a value for innovation and fostering research. We have the University of the West Indies and the University of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
I mean, foster basic research in specific areas, even if it's oil and gas. I mean, there's so many areas that we have not even explored in that one specific field that we can open up if the government values science, technology, and you're right, innovation and entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So the investment in new businesses, in new ideas, in startup companies, critical for the development of any nation.
I think they need to look as an example, because Chile, I don't know if you know about Chile, the Chilean government basically open up this grant to ask entrepreneurs from around the world to come and start up, and they give them, housing and to just get that, to just set the tone, to create the environment so they could see. And I don't know if that's one of the ways, the Caribbean could look at it to see.
It absolutely has to be.
So I think there's a huge potential within the Caribbean.
Yes.
It's just that we just need certain guidance and direction.
We need leadership.
Yes.
We need visionaries.
Yes.
We need courageous leadership. And so every time I have an opportunity to speak, I talk about that. I talk about the need for that kind of leadership, the need to support innovation, to put structures in place for that entrepreneurial spirit. And it starts in school too.
Yeah.
It starts engaging students in innovation, in thinking about solutions to problems innovatively and giving them tools to be able to start businesses. So it starts in school. It
Yeah.
starts with education again.
Yes. Yes. So true. So right. So you are at a cutting edge in space technology. You do that. You do that every day. But is being innovative difficult in a large organization such as NASA? I always wonder about that.
It is. It is very difficult because it's NASA, the agency is, it's a bureaucracy. It's a U.S. government organization. It's an institution. It's been around since the early 1950s. And so it's very hard. It's a behemoth endeavor to shift the thinking. But there's a huge push throughout the agency to promote innovation, because that's the only way we are going to stay relevant. We are going to be able to compete with even the private sector, even though that's not our role. We are a public entity, but we have to, the way we attract business and the way we foster technology advancements is through attracting private companies. So we always have to be thinking about that. So there's a huge push now to lay the foundation to create the space for innovative thinking. And then we always struggle with funding, right? Because we get our funding from discretionary funds from the US government. And it's been flatlined for decades.
Really?
So yes, it has. And so we are not getting any more money. So we have to be smarter about how we go about design, how we go about engineering systems within the funding budget, within the fiscal budget that we have.
And also too, I realizing that NASA is also getting some competition from private sector, because there are people now coming up with their own private drones.
Right.
You know, people
well, we encourage. There's a new initiative to foster the commercial space industry, and so we are very pivotal in engaging small companies to develop U.S. space rockets that are created and developed for the U.S. Space program.
So can you tell us more about your foundation, Brightest Stars?
The Brightest Stars Foundation was founded back in 2007 when I was at NASA headquarters, and I was in a place in my life where I knew I'd accomplished a lot, but there was something missing. And I started looking around and realizing that there weren't a lot of little ones, as you say, come in the pipeline following my footsteps, or just getting into science and engineering, and knowing that education was the key. I realized that I could have made a contribution in that area. So I founded the foundation around educating specifically young girls, because I can relate to that. And I know there is a problem. I am focusing in the developing world, less in the US, more in the developing world. And I travel a lot talking to young people, inspiring young people. And eventually I'm trying to put structures in place to develop science academies for girls in the developing world. So that is my ultimate vision for my organization. These will be high schools that would educate girls in highly technical and scientific fields, so that hopefully they're the next generation of Nobel laureates in sciences. So that's my goal, that's my passion, that's my calling in life.
The next woman to walk on the moon.
Yes, exactly.
But you have so many roles. What advice would you offer to persons who may be challenged one day to fill that leadership roles at the same time? How do you cope?
It's not easy, because I am a mother of a 14-year-old active, her schedule is worse than mine. She's a competitive gymnast, and I partly homeschool her because she wants to pursue her gymnastics. So it's finding balance, and I am very selective in what I work on. I only work on things I am extremely passionate about because there's just not enough time to do anything else. So the things I'm involved in and engaged in are things that I'm passionate about. And I think once you pursue that, it's a little easier. I'm not saying it's not hard, but it's you doing what you love. And so you find a balance. Yeah.
Okay. So from a practical standpoint, what has been the single most important thing for you in achieving what you have?
The single most important thing in achieving what I have is being able to give back. It's being able to travel around the world and inspire people, old and young. When I go back to Trinidad, it's amazing how welcome I am and how proud people are of me and what I've accomplished, and being able to inspire people, knowing from my journey that really there's no limit to what we can do. We put limits on ourselves, but when we realize that it's up to us to live our dreams and set our trajectory for our lives, there's no limit. And so that's my story, really. And I love sharing that with people.
So there are no boundaries. We tend to say, oh, no, I can't do this. Oh, no, I can never do that. Don't ever mention those words in your mouth.
No, not in my vocabulary. We can do anything we put our minds to, really. And it is believing in yourself, even in the face of no agreement around you, still believing in yourself and moving forward is the key.
So what are you incredibly grateful for, Camille?
Oh my gosh, I'm incredibly grateful for the life I've had, for the foundation I've had as a child, for the values my parents have instilled in me, really, because without that, I wouldn't be who I am today.
And so what's next on your agenda? What's next for Camille?
Oh my God. In the very, very near future, like within the next few weeks, I am finishing my doctorate, and I'll be defending dissertation in about 4 weeks. So I am focused like a gazelle focused on finishing.
So the next 4 weeks, you'll be Dr. Camille Alleyne.
Within the next month and a half, 2 months.
Congratulations. And what is your dissertation on?
It's actually in the field of education, and specifically on females and STEM, and what are the barriers to getting females engaged in science and technology and how they can overcome that. So I'm doing a lot of research on all girls schools that are focused on STEM, and seeing what are the measures and what kind of measures they've implemented to encourage minority girls specifically. There's a lot of research on white females, but there's not a lot of research on minority girls. And we know minority females only make up 2% of all the engineers and scientists in the US. It's a staggering statistic. And so, that's my contribution to the field of engineering, of education, knowing that I want to build my schools and create my schools. And so this is laying the foundation for that.
Wow, fantastic. I would love to have a copy of that to see.
It's going to be about 200 pages when I'm done.
What will be the findings? Oh, well, Camille, thank you so much for taking time out with us here on Accomplished Minds.
I really appreciate the opportunity to just speak to you, share my story, and my maybe few tidbits, and I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to see more, subscribe to accomplishedminds.com.